A guy brought in some shell casings that he says were at the scene of John Dillinger's last crime. There's no way to tell if they're legit just by looking at them, so I called in Jonathan to help me out with this. This is the shell casings I was telling you about. 245s at 38 and some random rifle casing from Dillinger's last heist that went really, really bad.
It did go bad, for some. I'm the executive director at the Mob Museum, which is the National Museum of Organized Crime and Law Enforcement. We specialize in artifacts, history, and stories of organized crime in the United States. So this is a great story. So the Merchants National Bank robbery in South Bend, Dillinger's last robbery before he was killed. Dillinger at the time, public enemy #1. I mean, this guy was as big as they come in terms of outlaws and real, this is real-life Hollywood stuff. I mean, this is a guy who was in jail, busted out of jail twice. I mean, they knocked off banks between 1933 and 1934. Dozen-plus banks were robbed, robbed police stations to take guns and ammunition. I mean, it's amazing.
I guess that's where you would go.
Go where they keep the guns. But this was an amazing time period, 1933, 1934. I mean, this was, the Depression. People are somewhat sympathetic to the bank robbers. I mean, banks are not popular at that point in time. And the bank robbers had a real advantage, too, in terms of firepower, the speed of their cars. They would go into these small towns and they'd do a job, and the police there would be no match for them. And in fact, it was this type of activity that really led to the FBI gaining all the powers that they did, because it was the only way to pursue these guys across state lines. John Dillinger was an outlaw. His claim to fame, so to speak, was as public enemy #1. By some accounts, John Dillinger was a little bit of a Robin Hood type of figure. So Rick, what are your concerns about these casings?
Well, my concerns is we have 4 shell cases in a baggie and a newspaper article that's 57 years after the fact. So, are these the shells or not?
Well, so the 245s, those could make sense. I mean, they could be either for a revolver or a Thompson submachine gun. They'd use weapons where they could penetrate vests. I mean, that was one of the things that was very important to them. This one looks like it could be a .35 caliber rifle cartridge, okay, which one of the gang members, Homer Van Meter, was reported to have used that type of rifle. Okay. And from what we know about that bank robbery, might have been stationed outside with that rifle. So that could also make sense.
Okay, so is it real?
What we could do is we could take a look at the casings and the markings on the casings and see if we can gather any information that might give an indication of what time period they're from. Be able to get back to you with some more information about them.
Okay, well, is that all right with you?
Sure.
Okay, I gotta get to work.
Great.
And give me a call, and I'll call him, and we'll get everything figured out.
Sounds good.
Great, thanks a lot, man. Sometimes when you're dealing with something as rare and unique as this, you just need more time. But if they are from John Dillinger's last robbery, I want them. So now I'm gonna sit here with my fingers crossed while Jonathan tries to figure this out.
Here's what we know. So let's start with the .35 caliber.
Okay.
It's an old case. Certainly has the appearance of being an old case. You can see on the underside, if you were to turn it over, it says REM UMC. That reflects back in 1912, Remington and Union Metallic Cartridge Company merged, and you had that head stamp from 1912 up until 1960. The other casings do not have quite the same aged appearance to them when you take a look at it. They are old, there's no question about that. Based on the stamp, said Western 45 Auto, is an old stamp. That one's a little bit troubling. If you take a closer look at the underside, you'll see this red primer sealant. The red primer sealant And the nickel plating would typically be from a more recent shell. The bottom line with this, the newspaper article, the markings on the casings, it's a wonderful story. There's nothing about the characteristics of these cases that we've been able to determine that would indicate that they come from that crime scene.
So what you're saying is there's no proving or disproving this?
No.
All right, thanks, Jonathan.
You got it.
Thanks.
So even if those casings were used by the Dillinger gang, there's nothing to be extracted off of those casings. You can't pull fingerprints or DNA. It's a wonderful story, but there's just no way to establish fact.
Yeah, the reason I wanted Jonathan to look at him is to figure out some way we could prove it.
Sure.
This is the hard thing in the world. When you have just one piece of paperwork that's 50-some years after the fact, it's generally not enough. You know, they very well could be. They really could. But the problem is I can't put them in my showcase and put a price tag on them and say, most likely from.
Thanks very much. You too. I know Bob Ehlers, my son's great-grandfather, was at the scene. I know he collected those bullets. I know we've had him in the family since. That is the authenticity factor for me.